Welcome back to the channel, to the woods. If you have been here before, you know the shape of this. If this is your first night with us, you came at the right story. Tonight we are going into the Appalachian woods. We are going to walk a trail that is older than the states it cuts through, and we are going to follow one piece of paper, one journal that a woman left behind. This is Appalachian Trail, what the journal reveals. If you would like to follow along with future episodes, subscribe. If you know someone who needs the woods tonight, share this with them. And if you would like to support the work, there is a Patreon link in the description. There is a woman who went into the woods on a summer morning, and the woods kept her for 26 days. She kept a journal. The last line in it was not for her. It was for the people who would find her. Her name was Geraldine Largay. She was 66 years old. She was 5 feet 3, and she was, by her own description, slow and steady. She had been retired for several years from a life of work that included nursing, and she had taken up long-distance hiking the way some people take up a second language, or a prayer. She was not a thrill-seeker. She was a list-maker. She planned her resupply boxes months in advance. She packed the night before. She carried a water filter, a topo map, a compass, a small notebook with a green softcover, and a pencil she kept on a string around her neck. Her trail name, the one other hikers gave her, was Inchworm. Inchworm because she was slow and steady, and because inchworms, when you watch them, are never quite as slow as you think. She had a husband named George. She had a daughter named Kerry. George and Kerry were the people she called when she came into a town, and the people she called when she left a town, and the people she called at the end of every long day from a payphone or a cell phone or the back deck of a hostel. George and Kerry were the two names in her phone she dialed most. They were the two names she would have dialed from anywhere. In the year 2013, at 66 years old, she was hiking the Appalachian Trail. She had started in Georgia in March, and she was making her way north. She had hiked more than 1,000 miles by the time she reached the stretch of trail that runs through the tall spruce of western Maine, a piece of the trail so remote that the next road is a half-day's walk in any direction. She had been a hiker for years. She had not been lost. She was the most prepared hiker in the woods. This is a story about 5 rules. They are old rules, older than the trail, older than the states the trail cuts through. They were told around fires by people who lived in these mountains long before there was a trail to walk. They were told by the Cherokee, who called these woods their home. They were told by the settlers, who came over the ridges and learned them the hard way. They are the rules that kept people alive. They are also the rules that did not keep everyone alive. On the morning of July 22, 2013, Geraldine Largay hiked with her full backpack along a rugged stretch of the Appalachian Trail south of Stratton, Maine. She was on her way from one backcountry shelter to the next. The morning was clear. The trail was dry. She was not in a hurry. Around mid-morning, she stepped off the trail. It was a small thing. She had been hiking for hours. She needed to use the restroom. The trees were thick, and she went in among them, maybe 20 yards off the path where the spruce closed over her head. When she came back, the trail was gone. Not gone, misplaced. The trail was right there somewhere, but the trees all looked the same, and the light came down at the same angle from every direction, and the ground underfoot was moss on stone, and she could not see the path, She waited for it to come back. It did not. She waited for a long time. She was a careful woman. She had her tent. She had her water filter. She had her journal. She did the things a hiker is supposed to do when the trail disappears. She stayed where she was. She marked her position. She made noise. She wrote down the date. The date was July 22nd, 2013. The next date she wrote down was July 23rd. The one after that was July 24th. She kept writing dates. She kept waiting. The search party was looking for her, but the search party was looking in the wrong place. They thought she was on the trail. She was not on the trail. She was half a mile off the trail in the dense spruce beside a small stream in a place the searchers would not find for 2 years. For 26 days, she stayed where she was. On August 6th, after she had been alone at her makeshift campsite for almost 2 weeks, the last line in her journal reads, quote, "When you find my body, please call my husband George and my daughter Kerry." End quote. She may have written it earlier. She may have written it later. The pencil is faded. It does not matter. She left a message. The message found the people it was meant for. This is a story about 5 rules. The first one is this: never answer your name in a voice you do not recognize. In the late 1800s, a man named James Mooney lived among the Cherokee. He was an anthropologist employed by the Bureau of American Ethnology in Washington, and he spent years in the mountains of western North Carolina listening. In the year 1900, he published a book called Myths of the Cherokee. The book is still in print. The stories in it are still told. One of them is about a witch. Her name was Spearfinger. In Cherokee, she was called Utlunta, which means more or less, the one with the pointed spear. The Cherokee say she was made of stone. They say her skin glimmered like flint, and that the Cherokee name for her in some tellings was Nunyunui, the stone dress, because when she walked, you could hear the rocks beneath her feet crush into the ground, and the sound she made was the sound of thunder. They say her voice echoed down the mountain to the Cherokee villages, and the birds of the forest would go silent when they heard it, and the Cherokee have always taken the silence of the birds as a warning. They say she could return to stone when she chose, and that the only thing that could hurt her was a knife made from a certain kind of rock the Cherokee knew about. And they say that she kept her right hand clutched against her chest, the way a person holds a wound, because the only soft place on her body was the palm of that hand, and the palm of that hand was her heart, and if you could get to it, you could kill her. Spearfinger was hungry. She ate the livers of the people she killed. The Cherokee say she had a way of getting close. She did not look like a witch. She looked like an old woman of the tribe, which is to say she looked like a grandmother, which is to say she looked safe. But the thing that made her dangerous was not what she looked like. It was what she sounded like. Spearfinger could mimic the voices of the people you loved. She could sound like your mother. She could sound like your father. She could sound like the friend you played with, the aunt who braided your hair, the cousin who walked you to the spring. She would call out to a child playing in the woods, and the child would hear a voice they trusted, and the child would walk toward the voice, and the child would not come back. That is what Spearfinger was. She was a voice in the woods that sounded like home. The Cherokee told this story to their children for a reason. They were telling them, Do not go toward a voice in the woods, even if it is a voice you know. They were telling them, the woods can be made to sound like the place you came from. The woods can be made to sound safe. The woods can lie. There is one story Mooney was told that ends differently. A young Cherokee hunter who had not heard the rule heard his sister's voice calling from a laurel thicket. He went to the voice. Spearfinger rose up out of the laurel, and her flint skin caught the sun, and her stone hand was already in the air. He had a knife. The knife was not the right kind of stone, and it broke against her skin. But the break was enough. She flinched. He ran. The Cherokees say he was the only man in 100 years who saw Spearfinger face to face and came back to the village. They say the rule did not save him. The knife, the wrong knife, saved him. And the rule says, do not go to the voice in the first place. There is a man who posts on the website Reddit under the name he goes by in the world. He says he is a former Green Beret. He lives in the heart of Appalachia now. He is telling a story, and the story is this. He was walking in a hollow on his own land late in the afternoon, the way he has walked it 1,000 times. He heard his name called. It was his first name, called in a voice he knew. He stopped. He listened. The voice called again, and it was his mother's voice, and his mother has been dead for 9 years. He did not answer. He turned around. He walked back the way he came. He did not look over his shoulder. He has not walked in that hollow since. He is not telling you he believes in witches. He is telling you he heard a voice that was not his mother's in a place where his mother's voice could not have been. He is telling you the rule. Never answer your name in a voice you do not recognize. Geraldine Largay made her last phone call to her husband on the morning of July 22nd. She told him she was heading to a backcountry shelter. The call ended. The next time George Largay would hear his wife's name in a sentence, it would be a stranger's voice on a different kind of phone, telling him they had found her. That was 26 days later. She did not call again. There is no record of why. There is no record of what she heard in the woods, in the silence that followed. The first rule is the one about the voice. The second rule is the one about the light. If you see lights between the trees, do not follow them. The Latin name for it is ignis fatuus, which translates more or less to foolish fire. The Cherokee had their own name for it. The Scots-Irish settlers who came down the Shenandoah Valley in the 1700s had their own name. The German settlers in Pennsylvania had another. The name did not matter. The thing they were naming was the same. It was a light in the woods at night. It looked like a lantern. It moved. It was always just past the next tree. A man is walking home along a road he has walked 10,000 times. The road goes through a stretch of woods. He sees a light. It is the color of an oil lamp. It is moving slowly deeper into the trees. He is not a superstitious man. He is a man with a flashlight and good boots. He follows the light. It is just past the next tree. It is just past the next ridge. It is always just past the next tree. 3 hours later, he is standing in a place he has never seen. The road is gone. The road he was walking on is gone. He is in a hollow that does not match any map he has ever read. He turns around. The hollow is not the same shape it was when he walked in. He walks out by a route he cannot describe, and the next day, when he tries to find the hollow again, he cannot. He has been a man who trusts his own mind for 50 years. He is not that man anymore. The lights are not on any one map. They are reported in the Great Smoky Mountains. They are reported in the Cohutta Wilderness of North Georgia. They are reported in the Greenbrier Valley of West Virginia. They are reported in the Ozarks, in the Adirondacks, in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. They are reported in the bogs of Scotland, the marshes of Ireland, the moors of England. Wherever there is a piece of ground that has been left alone for a long time, the lights come out. In the mountains of western North Carolina, on the eastern edge of the Pisgah National Forest, there is a ridge called Brown Mountain. The Cherokee have known the lights of Brown Mountain for as long as the Cherokee have been telling stories. The Cherokee say the lights are the lanterns of the little people, the Yunwit Sundi, who walk the ridges at night with small lights in their hands and who are not friendly and not unfriendly, but who will lead a traveler off the path if the traveler looks at the lights too long. The first newspaper account of the Brown Mountain Lights appeared in the Charlotte Observer in the year 1913. The United States Geological Survey sent a team to investigate in the year 1922, and the team reported back that the lights were real and that the team could not explain them. The Smithsonian Institution has logged the lights in 3 separate investigations since. The lights have never been explained. The Cherokee explanation is older than any of the others. The Cherokee say the lights are the spirits of the dead walking. The Scots-Irish say they are souls in purgatory, looking for someone to pray them out. The Germans say they are the ghosts of children who died before they were baptized. The scientists say they are the combustion of phosphine and methane over a marsh, and that they look like a flame, but are not one. All of these explanations agree on one thing. The lights are not where you are going. The lights are where they want you to be. Geraldine Largay stepped off the Appalachian Trail on the morning of July 22nd to use the restroom. She went in among the trees. She was gone for less than 5 minutes. When she came back, the trail was missing. It was not missing. It was 100 yards to her left, hidden by a stand of spruce, exactly where it should have been. But the trees all looked the same. The light came down at the same angle from every direction. The ground underfoot was moss on stone, and the trail was not where her eyes told her it was. She looked for it. She could not find it. The Maine Warden Service later determined that she was less than half a mile off the trail. Less than half a mile. In the dense spruce of western Maine, half a mile is a long way to be lost. The trees are tall, the canopy is thick, the ground is soft. You cannot see more than 10 yards in any direction. You can be 10 yards from a road and not know the road is there. She waited where she was. She had her tent. She had her water filter. She had her journal. She did the things a hiker is supposed to do. She stayed put. The search party was looking for her, but the search party was looking on the trail, and she was not on the trail. The days passed. She wrote the dates. She wrote about her water. She wrote about her food. She wrote about the weather. She did not write about a light. She did not write about a voice.
She did not write about anything that might tell us what she heard in the woods, in the silence that followed.
The second rule is the one about the light. The third rule is the one about the run. Never run from something in the woods. In the old Cherokee village of Etowah, sometimes called Chota in the older tellings, there was a demon. His name was Ewa, which means, more or less, the spirit of madness. The Cherokees say he was a thing of malice, and that the worst thing about him was not what he did to the village. It was what he did to the men. Ewa had the power to drive a man mad with a single glance. The braves of the tribe went out to hunt him. The wise shamans told them not to. The braves went out anyway. They came back. But the men who came back were not the men who went out. They would not speak. They would not eat. They would not look at their wives. They would sit in the smoke of the longhouse and stare at the fire, and the fire could not warm them, and the smoke could not bring them back. Ewa had looked at them, and they were his. There was a woman in the village. Her name was Running Deer. Her husband had been one of the braves. He had gone out with the others, and he had come back, and he was not the man she had married. He sat in the smoke and he stared at the fire. She sat across from him, and she could not reach him. For weeks she tried. She sang to him. She brought him water. She braided his hair the way she had always braided his hair. He did not look at her. The fire did not warm him. She began to understand that the man she had married was not coming back. Running Deer went to the shamans. She told them she was going to find Ewa. The shamans told her the braves could not face him. She told them the braves had already faced him, and the braves had lost. The shamans gave her a booger mask, a bobcat's face, and they told her the spirit of the mountain cat could stand against the demon, but she had to be the one to surprise him. The braves had faced him head-on. She had to come from the side. They told her she would have to do it at night, when Ewa walked the laurel, and that she would have to do it alone. They told her she might not come back. She said she understood. She went alone. She put on the mask. She tracked Ewa to the deep woods where the mountain laurel grows thick, and the ground is dark, and the light does not come down. She found him. She surprised him. The Cherokees say the spirit of the mountain cat was stronger than the spirit of madness. They say Running Deer won. They say her spirit from that day on inhabited the body of the Wampus cat, and the Wampus cat has walked these mountains ever since, guarding the lands of the Cherokee, protecting her people, the woman who did what the husband could not. They say the Wampus cat can be heard at night in the hollers of East Tennessee, and that when you hear it, you should not run, because the Wampus cat only chases the ones who run. There is a wolf sanctuary in the Appalachian Mountains. It is run by a man who has been working with wolves for 30 years. He is telling a story, and the story is this. He says that for the last 11 years, he has been watched. He says there is something on the property line of his sanctuary, just inside the tree line, and it has been there every night, and it has not moved. He says he has never seen what it is. He says he has not tried. He says the rule his grandmother taught him is this: do not look at it. Do not give it your eyes. Do not run. He is not a superstitious man. He is a man who has worked with wolves and who has been watched by something that is not a wolf, and who has not run. He has, in his own words, quote, just kept doing the work, end quote.
He goes out at night. He checks the fences. He feeds the wolves. He does not look at the tree line. The tree line is still there. He is still here. Geraldine Largay did not run. She stepped off the trail and the trail disappeared, and she stayed where she was. She made a camp. She marked the spot. She set up her tent under the dense spruce in a place where the searchers would not find her for 2 years. She did not run. The rule is the one about the run, and she kept the rule. And the rule did not save her. The third rule is the one about the run. The fourth rule is the one about the baby. If you hear a baby crying in the woods, walk the other way. In the winter of 1843, in a stretch of the Appalachians that runs through what is now West Virginia, a man named Jack Greer lived alone in a cabin on Jawbone Ridge. The cabin was on the leeward side of the ridge under a flint wall, where the snow piled into shapes that looked like pointed teeth in a lower jaw. That is why the ridge was called Jawbone. Greer did not like society. He spent most of his time in the cabin his great-grandfather had built. The old women in town said Greer was a cocksure man. The old women in town said Greer was a damn fool. That winter was a starving winter. The snow was deep, the game was scarce, and the old women in town told Greer to come down from the ridge. They said they avoided the area in savage winters. They said there was a thing in the woods. Greer did not listen. Greer was a cocksure man, and he had 3 hounds, and he had a rifle, and he thought the thing in the woods would not bother him. A blizzard came. Greer and his hounds were trapped on the ridge. The snow piled up. The cabin door was nearly buried. Greer grew desperate. He caught a creature in the woods. The creature was not a wolf, and it was not a cat, and it was not a bear. It was something else. The old tellings do not name it. They call it a bizarre cat-like creature, and they say it had a long tail, longer than the tail of any animal in those mountains. And they say the creature looked at Greer, and Greer looked at the creature, and the creature made a sound that was not a sound any animal in those mountains had ever made. Greer chopped off the tail. He took the tail back to the cabin. He cooked it. He ate it. What came back for him when the thaw came was not a creature. What came back for him was the thing he had eaten. The old women in town, when they found what was left, called him a damn fool. The tale of Tailypo is told in the Appalachian storytelling tradition in many versions. The Library of Congress has recordings of it. The Coal River Folklife Project, the Blue Ridge Parkway Folklife Project, the field recordings of Burl Hammonds and Maggie Hammonds Parker in Pocahontas County, West Virginia, the Jack Tales of Maud Gentry Long of Hot Springs, North Carolina. The story has been told for 150 years, and the version that gets told the most is the version where the hunter takes, and the thing that comes back is the thing that was taken. The scholars who have collected the story say the older versions, the ones recorded first, are the cruelest. The story has been softened over the years the way a stone is softened by a river. The Cherokee version of the same kind of story is older still. There is a Cherokee variant. In the Cherokee variant, the witch in the woods does not need to eat a creature. She is the creature. She walks the woods at night with a baby in her arms. The baby cries. The baby cries in a voice that sounds like a real baby, the baby of a real mother. The Cherokee say the witch uses the crying to call the mothers out. The Cherokee say if you hear a baby crying in the woods and you have no child with you, walk the other way. The Cherokee say this rule has saved more lives than any other. The Cherokee say, if you are the mother and you hear a baby crying in the woods, walk the other way twice, because the witch knows the sound a mother cannot ignore. The rules did not start with one night. They started with 1,000 small decisions made by people who did not come back. Each rule was someone who learned it the hard way. Each rule was a story someone told at a fire late at night that someone else remembered when it mattered. The Cherokee kept the rules the longest. The elders passed them down. The rest of us learned them in pieces when the people who knew them whole were gone. The list was never written by one person. The list was written by everyone who did not come back. Geraldine Largay did not have a child with her on the trail. She had her husband at the other end of a phone line. She had her daughter in a town in Tennessee. She had a journal in her pack. There is a version of the rule that says, if you hear a voice in the woods that you trust, walk the other way. She walked toward the trail. The trail was not there.
The fourth rule is the one about the baby. The fifth rule is the one about the tree line. If something is in the tree line, never let it see you see it. There is a woman who posts on Reddit in a thread about the heart of Appalachia. She is telling a story, and the story is this. She was hiking in the Jefferson National Forest in Southwest Virginia, on a piece of the Appalachian Trail that runs through a long stretch of spruce. She was on a ridge. The trail was wide and clear. The light was going down. She saw a figure at the tree line on the right side of the trail. The figure was 7 feet tall. It was not a bear. It was not a person. It was, in her words, skin and bones, and it was gray, and it was standing perfectly still, and it was looking at her. She stopped. It stopped. She says she asked out loud, quote, "Is that a mirror?" end quote. She says she does not know why she said that. She says the figure looked at her, and then, slowly, it shook its head. It shook its head, no. And then it was gone. She did not run. She says her grandmother had taught her the rule. She says the rule is this: if you see it, you do not see it. You do not look at it. You do not look away from it in a way that says you saw it. You finish the walk. You do not look again. She says she finished the walk. She says she did not look at the tree line again for the rest of the day. She says she has not been to that piece of the trail since. On September 12, 1952, in the small town of Flatwoods, West Virginia, a group of 7 people went out to look at a light they had seen in the sky. The light was bright. It was not a plane. It was not a star. They walked to a place they thought the light had come down. They found something else. The group was a mother and her 2 sons, a neighbor boy, and a young man who was a National Guardsman, and 2 more boys from the neighborhood. Their names were Kathleen May, a beautician who was the mother, Eugene Lemon, the Guardsman, who was 17, Teddy May, the older of her 2 sons, Ronald Shaver, Neil Nunley, Teddy Meal, and Tommy Heyer, who was the smallest of the group. They were 7 people, and they walked together to a hill on a farm owned by a man named G. Fisher, just outside of town, because 3 of the boys had seen a light streak across the sky and crash on the hillside, and they wanted to know what it was. They found it. The figure was 10 feet tall. It had a red face. It had a green body. It had a head that came to a point,
like a spade turned upside down. It did not move. It stood in the dark on the hillside, and it had a dark, metal-looking dress, or what the witnesses later described as a dress, and the air around it smelled of a metallic, sulfurous odor, like the air after a lightning strike. Eugene Lemon, the guardsman, was the first to point his flashlight at it. The figure turned slowly and looked at the flashlight. One of the children in the group screamed. The group ran. The figure did not follow. There had been another sighting not long before. A woman named Audra Harper, who lived on a farm on the other side of the ridge, had reported a similar figure on her own land in the same week. She had not spoken of it publicly because she had not wanted to be thought of as the kind of person who saw such things. After the Fisher Farm sighting, she came forward and she told the local paper, quote, "I thought I was the only one," end quote. The paper printed the line. The line is the reason the sign at the edge of town has been left up all these years later. Kathleen May, the mother, took the children home. The group had been outside for less than 20 minutes. Most of them were sick for the next 3 days, with nausea, with a burning in their eyes and throat, with a strange metallic taste in their mouths. The local doctor, a man named L.E. McDonald, treated the group, and he said the symptoms were consistent with exposure to a corrosive gas, although he could not say what kind. The local paper, the Braxton Democrat, ran the story the next week. The wire services picked it up. The story became the Flatwoods Monster. The town of Flatwoods, to this day, has a sign at the edge of town that reads, "Welcome to Flatwoods, home of the Green Monster." The figure has not come back. The town has not taken the sign down. In the winter of 1953, in the small town of Bladenboro, North Carolina, something was killing dogs. The local paper, the Wilmington Star-News, ran the story. The creature was called the Beast of Bladenboro. The paper called it a vampire beast. It was tall. It was gray. It left claw marks on the trees, and it left the dogs drained of blood. The local vet, a man named C.C. Cribb, treated the wounds of the surviving dogs, and he said the wounds were made by an animal he had never seen. It did not attack people. It attacked dogs. The town held a beast fest every winter for the next 60 years. The beast has not come back. The beast fest has not stopped. The pattern is the same. A figure at the tree line. An awareness on both sides that the figure has been seen. The long, slow, terrible question of what to do.
Welcome back to the surface. The Appalachian Trail is 2,193 miles long. It runs from Georgia to Maine. People walk it every year. And every year, a few of them do not come back. If you walked this one with us tonight, thank you. Subscribe if you would like to come back to the woods. Share this with someone who is having trouble sleeping. The full source list for this episode is in the description. Every journal, every police report, every field recording we used is linked there. And if you would like to support the channel, there is a Patreon link in the description as well.